our other gang. So the next component we're going to look at is the card component. Now, cards have been around as components for a long time, and they're basically just a small content container with a drop shadow and sometimes a border so that the content looks like a card on the page. Again, they're really flexible and there's a lot of things we can do with cards. If I scroll down the page here, we can see a few different examples. We have one with an image on the top, some text and then a button at the bottom. A more simple one with just some text and links at the bottom. Some with lists inside them, and I could keep scrolling for ages to see all the different examples. You can also colorize them using the theme colors. So definitely have a play around with these. For our website, we'll use cards to show the different pricing options for the ebook and also place them into a grid layout. Alright, so the cards on our designer are going to go underneath this section right here. So we're going to have 3 cards in a row with 3 different pricing options. So let's start to flesh this out right here underneath pricing plans. So first of all, we need a section, and this is going to have an ID of pricing, and remember, when we click on the pricing thing right here, it's going to take us to this section on the page, so it's going to scoot us down. And actually that happens nicely, and you'll see that later on. It kind of scrolls to the position on the screen. That's a built-in effect in Bootstrap. So we have this section. I'm also going to give this a couple of classes. So we'll say class is equal to bg-light. That gives this kind of like a really light gray color, and then also the margin top is going to be strength 5 just to pull it down from this section a little bit. Okay, so inside this section right here, first of all, I'll do a bit of a content to contain all of the content. So container, and it's going to be LG. So 100% width until large screens. Then it goes into container mode. Okay. So in this container, the first thing I'll do is a div, and I'm going to centralize the text using this text center class. We have an H2 pricing plans. Then we have a paragraph lead to make it a bit bigger and text muted. So it says choose a pricing plan to suit you. I save it. We should see that over here. Voila. Okay. So now we just need the cards underneath it, and they are going to go inside a grid. So we need a row, first of all. So let's do a div with a class of row, and also we'll say my is going to be strength 5. So this row is going to have margin top and bottom. Alright, so I'm also going to paste in a couple of other classes. So the first class, let me just paste these in, is going to be align item center. And remember that aligns the content vertically in the center, and this one justify content center justifies the content horizontally in the center. Okay, so we have this row and we need our different cards inside it. So let's do the first card. I'm going to do a div with a class of call -8, then also call -LG4, then call -XL3 like so. So what this means is that initially for extra small screens to begin with, it's going to be 8 columns in width. That's kind of like the default width. And then when you get to large screens, it's going to be 4 columns in width. Then on extra large, it's going to be 3 columns in width. Okay, so inside here, we want to create our card. So we need to div, and the first thing we do is give this a class of card. All cards have this class. Then I want to inside that do some card body or text inside it. And the way we do that is by creating a div with a class of card-body. So card body is all of the chunky meat inside the card, if you like. Okay, so inside the card body, I'm going to say we want to centralize the text. So I'll give this a text center class as well. And also give this a bit of padding. So py-4. So up and down this has a bit of padding. Alright. So if I just say hello inside here now, Let me just save this and do that. So we can see this on the screen. That there is the default card. So it's just like a square with a bit of a rounded corner, and it's got a border as well. Now I want to take the border off. So I'm going to come to the card right here, and I can say border-0. And that strips away the border. So if I save it now, then we should see the card without a border. Awesome. Okay. So instead of this, we want a few things inside this card. First of all, I want a title. So I'm going to do an H4 and give this a class of card title. And that styles it as a card title. So this title is going to say Starter Edition. So this is kind of like the title of the pricing plan. If you like the Starter Edition. And then underneath that, I'll do a paragraph with a class of lead and also a class of card-subtitle. Okay, so again, this just styles it as a card subtitle, and inside here, I'll say ebook download only. Okay, so let's take a look so far at what this looks like. Okay, looking pretty good. So the next thing I'm going to do is the price. And again, that's going to go inside a paragraph tag. I'm going to make the text quite big. So I'll say display-5 and also give this margin top and bottom. So MY-4. And then I'll say text is going to be the primary color. So text-primary. And then the font weight is going to be bold. So FW-bold. And then we'll put a price in the middle. I'm just going to say $1,299. And then after the price we'll do some card text. So I'll say P, card-text again. A Bootstrap plaster style list and also MX-5 to give it some margin left and right. The text is going to be the muted gray color. So text muted. And then also by default, I want to display as none. But then when it gets to a large size screen, we are going to show it. So I'll say D-LG-block. So to begin with, on smaller screens, it will be displaying none. When it reaches larger screens, it's going to display as block. Okay. And inside here, we'll just do some alarm ipsum. So alarm 8, for example, and tab. And finally, we'll do a button. So an anchor tag and then a class of btn. So a class of btn outline to make an outline button and then color it primary. And then also btn-lg to make a large button. And then finally, margin top is going to be 3. Okay, so this is the button. Href is just harsh. I must say bye. Now, so this card right here has a card class. We strip away the border. Then we have the card body, which is where all the kind of meaty stuff goes inside the card. So we have a card title. We have a card subtitle. Then we just have the price, which is nothing special, just display 5. Then the card text, and then we have a button at the bottom to say buy now. So if I save this, hopefully, it's going to look all right. And it does. So there we go. My friends. That is your first card. But we need to more. Now instead of you watching me type these out from scratch again, I'm going to paste these in one at a time. So let me do the next one and then I'll go through it. So let me paste this card in. It's slightly different, but almost the same. The only real thing that's different is this bit right here where we specify the columns. Because the first one we say call 8 by default and then call 4 on large and then 3 on extra large. Whereas this one is called 9 by default. So a little bit bigger than on large screens. It's going to be 4, which is the same. But then it never goes to 3. So we get smaller for extra large screens. The rest down here is virtually the same. We have the card class. However, we don't strip out the board at this time. We color it the primary color and we give it a thickness of 2. Now we say right here as well. We have a card header. Now we didn't have that up here. We just went straight into the card body. But above that this time, we have a card header. And what that does is place a little strip at the top of the card, and we'll see that in a second. We say text primary. So it's blue, and we say this is the most popular plan. Then after that, we have the card body, text center, PY5, the card title, the card subtitle. We have the price. The display is a little bit bigger display 4 instead of 5. Remember, 1 is the biggest, 5 is the smallest, and then we have the card text again, and we have the bottom. At the bottom. Alright. So in fact, just so there's the same amount of text on each one. Let me copy this, and I'm going to paste that in here just so it's roughly the same. Okay. So save that and preview. And now we can see this card right here. So it's a bit bigger and it's styled differently. Now at the minute, it's not in the same row as this. So I think we might have put this in the wrong place. So we have this card right here, and it's, yep, the row starts here and it ends here. So let me give us some room there and take this card, and we need to paste it after this card right here. And now it should be in the same row. So let's give that a whirl now, save this, and yep, now it's in the same row. So we can see now it's a bit bigger. It's a bit wider on extra large screens. As we go down to smaller size screens, we can see it becomes a similar size. And then on very small screens, they kind of stack on top of each other. And notice again, this is a bit bigger because we said call 9 instead of call 8. Alright, so let me now just paste in the last one. So let me grab that and paste it in and walk you through this. And to be honest, this is probably going to be exactly the same as the first one. Yes, it is. So collate. Then on large screens 4. Then 3 on extra large. Strip out the border of the card. We have the card body, the text center, the PY, the title, the subtitle, and we have the price. We have this thing right here, which is the card text. And then we have the button at the bottom. Let me save that and preview and make this into a larger screen. And this is what it looks like. So we have the smaller cards on the left and right. And then the bigger one in the middle. And by the way, remember this thing. The card header. That is this thing at the top. That is a card header. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. But there's one more thing I want to do. And that's just to strip out the gap right here. So we can control the gap inside each row individually. And all we have to do is use a very simple utility class. So I'm going to come to the row and then say G for gap, and then -0. And that means 0 gap. Now if I save this, we can see the gap has gone. I can go all the way up to 5 to make it a big gap. If I save that, you're going to see a bigger gap. So I'm going to strip it out because I think it looks good when there's no gap. Save that, and yep, that looks pretty good to me. So there is our pricing plans, and all nice and responsive as well. And again, there's loads of variations like we said before of cards. All you need to do is search for the card components and you can see which cards you kind of like to get. Copy the code and just play around with it because you can add images at the top if you prefer as well. There's different colors and variations we can use if we scroll right down here. I think we saw these before, but we could see that we can have different color cards like this as well. Loads of variations. So definitely have a play around with them.